So hello and welcome to this very unplanned nightly race at Spa. Just sat on the settee with the partner and she said I'm looking for an early night, and what did I do straight away was go onto the XCL website and see what races were available. So here we are then, joining a very late race at Spa. I think it was an 11 o'clock start running through to midnight. I got an old setup that I was using and just thought I'd try and adjust it where I could to try and run this session. So 20 degrees track temperature. Just looking over the setup, not sure if I've made a few little tweaks, maybe to the brake balance. Initially I think this was at 59, I think it was. And I think I probably had about half an hour before this session actually started to come in and just make a few changes. I think lowering out the rebound there and just increasing the bump, I think it gives a little bit more precision under braking, I think, for the front of the car. So yeah, didn't particularly manage a great qualifying session. I think every lap that I ran, I think I had one out lap which I managed to get on the board, and then every subsequent lap after that I just made a few tiny errors really. So I don't particularly think I qualified where the car was capable of. I think probably in the 219s, definitely capable of a 219. Pretty surprising really. I've been spoken to GD Partick. He was saying he was getting close to his 217s, 216s in at Spa in the Ferrari, but I am a long way off that and very disappointed not to have been hitting a 218 lap. As you can see, looking at the qualifying, 219.4 topped the leaderboard. I think, yeah, as you can see, 221 for myself, but I was certainly in the 219s, maybe a 219.6 during the session, but just running wide, picking up track limits, penalties, and not really being able to set a good lap. But obviously there's all to play for in this race. I'm just trying to build points and get into the higher levels within the XCL website, so I can race really with a more competitive grid throughout the whole grid really. It'd be nice to see really close lap times with everybody. Obviously everyone's trying to get to where they're capable of, and some people will end up in the rookie class for a little bit longer as they progress in their journey towards being a better driver. But yeah, definitely enjoying the way that the game is structured, the way the website is structured, and just how this all works. Real hats off once again to the guys at XCL for doing all these lobbies. It's certainly got busier and busier. So away we go then. As you can see, I've done the obligatory and turned down the brake balance very much as far as it would go towards the rear of the car, so that whilst under braking we're getting temperature through as much of the brakes as we can really. Obviously you can see them start to warm up down the bottom right hand corner, and they do really warm all the tyres really well at Spa here, or especially in the Ferrari, being able to bring the brake balance as rearward as we can. Obviously you can still see the front discs get hotter much quicker, but definitely I think that the weaving around certainly probably brings heat into the edges of the tyres, but I think just braking in a straight line and just trying to radiate that heat throughout the tyre is a far more effective way at generating heat in the tyres. Obviously you've got the outer carcass of the tyre, which you can see is still slightly cool, but as the temperature starts to radiate from the brake discs, the tyres definitely do start to warm up. So one of the big issues running a night race is just being able to maintain the heat in the tyre. I think the track temperature was about 20 Celsius. So the tyre, unless generating heat, is going to get a little bit cooler. So I've definitely closed out the brake ducts a little bit for this night race. Obviously we're in P6, so there's a heck of a lot to do, especially with other drivers setting good competitive lap times. The pit stop's definitely going to play a huge part in progression, I think. But really enjoying XCL. Just the way that the site's structured, really. It really does work well with just being able to look at what races are available throughout the entire week, really. And you can just plan if you've only got time to do the one race, or if you're only just running the hot lap sessions on a Sunday. It's certainly at least something that you can take part in. And I don't think there's loads of that out there for console users. I'm sure there's loads of this stuff available for PC players, but I think having this available for console really is fantastic. And there's a good level of competition across all the drivers that are currently competing on console. There are good drivers out there, and the level of competition is still pretty good. I was speaking to Lynch. Oh, it's terrible audio. There really are some issues with audio at the minute within the game, especially for myself. I don't remember this on the night, so whether this is a capture issue. Let's just hope it doesn't plague us for the rest of the video. Or maybe when I actually download this or finish the processing in 1080p. Just for this short session I've only done 720p while I'm editing the commentary, so maybe we'll get rid of that when we process it in 1080p. But yeah, all getting ready for the start of the race, making sure they've got just the fuel selected. We don't want to be changing any tyres during that pit stop. A very quick 3.2 second or 3.6 second pit stop. So getting our grid position like we did before, getting very much at the top end of the green. Obviously it's not as important at Spa, especially when you're mid-pack. I can't really get a good getaway. We've got a rouge straight away, so it's going to be... It's one of those do or die moments as you go into a rouge, especially with a grid full of cars all wanting to get ahead. Obviously, I think the rear view mirror could still do with brightening up a little bit, especially when there's a lot of brightness from the other drivers. So a very scary moment here, just getting the car positioned, thinking about who else is around you. Brake disc glowing at the front, nice tyre temperatures. So away we go then, the green light, another car right alongside us as we set off. Is he going to pull alongside, or he's going to go right ahead and I'm going to let him? I just don't want to get tangled up in anything through a rouge. It's a long race and I don't really want the conflict. So I'm going to try and cover off the inside here. We can see a car gaining at the rear. See him pulling alongside in the radar as well. So unless he's going to stick it round the outside here, I'm trying to give him a bit of space. I know he's gone now, so moving across, covering my line. Try and get a good exit out of here. I do remember a number of these corners, but I don't remember all of them. Always really good through this section, the Ferrari very tight in first gear. Down through the magical Pouon. And just opening up a little gap on the inside there. Code Gamer just getting a little bit squirmy on the exit, so I'll definitely take that place. All the way through before we get into Pouon, so that's one place done at least on the first lap. Pretty happy with that. 5 other cars ahead of me. So it's going to be a long old race if I'm going to sit behind these. So it's that obligatory situation where do you go into the pit, make the race neutralise the race really, or do you try and win it on track? And I really don't think this is the case. I think while ever you've got that pit stop opportunity, it's such a good tool not to not use it in this scenario would be an injustice really, as to alright, I've had a bad qualifying session, but I can make the most of that by having a good race strategy and being able to overtake another 5 cars ahead of me is definitely the wrong call for me. So a brilliant choice, I think, on the fly to decide to pit early, get the car slowed down well before the pit stop, or well before the pit entry line. And we've got a long way. Obviously we've got the old, I guess this is the new section to the pit lane, and then we're using the old section of the pit lane. If you look back in history, the actual pit lane used to be just round the corner here, and I guess they are using this in the game. Obviously trying to maintain full throttle as well all the way through this little curve. Tiny little lift there, just don't want to be clipping those concrete pillars just on the left hand side there. 3.2 second stop. Not sure what the other car was doing there. I thought he'd actually come in the pit with me, but obviously you can see the rest of the pack a long way ahead, almost round at Puon by the time I'm actually getting to my pit box. So it is such a long entry into the pit lane. I've got no idea how much time is actually lost going through the pits. Trying to get the car nicely lined up then. Almost hitting perfect, to be honest. As soon as the car drops down, I press the start button, engage the throttle, and away we go. As soon as we're out, we're away. And if we look down there at the tyre temperatures as well, just look how cold the tyres are. So every other car that's coming out is going to have this to contend with, which is something to bear in mind really if you're battling with someone that's just coming out of the pit. You've got cold brakes, you've got tyres that are still cooling at the end of the long back straight there. If you come out of the forest, it's 26 psi and they're going to be no grip at all really. This is the issue that the Formula 1 drivers currently have coming out on new tyres. They're just really not up to temperature at all. So it's definitely a win-win situation if you're coming out battling with someone that's just out of the pit. So a very long race ahead of us. See a number of drivers possibly just going into the pit. 2 more drivers deciding to pit early, so very much aware of who you might be racing with at this early stage. So always trying to push maximum you can every lap. Just running a tiny bit wide there, probably picking up that first track limits penalty, and just bringing up the leaderboard on the left hand side there using the MFD. See the other cars in the pit lane, someone else just going into the pit, so we've got 3 other drivers deciding to take that early pit stop. 16 drivers in the race. I would usually put a comment on the Facebook group if I'm taking part in one of these races, but this really was just one of those moments where I had some time and I sort of looked earlier, knew that there might be a race on late tonight, but never really thought I'd be taking part in this. So just seeing the other car leaving the pit lane then.
There's a car exiting pit lane.
Definitely a long way ahead of him coming out of the pit. And we've got to bear in mind, I've got nice warm tyres now, and he's coming out on a set of cooling tyres. So really not an issue with worrying about him catching me on this straight. Very bouncy as well on the way out of the pit lane since we moved to 1.8. It's very easy to actually have an accident coming out of the pit lane if you're carrying too much speed. So certainly something to think about. I did look at adjusting the bump, rebound and bump, just to try and make it a little bit stiffer for 1.8, but it really doesn't benefit through the lap. And obviously we're only coming out of the pit lane once. Maybe a few issues coming up and over the rise of Eau Rouge, but I think running a harder bump stop doesn't really help the car throughout the rest of the lap. Although I'm not 100% happy with the setup that we've got here in the Ferrari. But yeah, I did mention earlier I was speaking to Lynch. You see down the bottom there, Lynch 1554. He was telling me he was using one of my setups that I'd put on from about 7 months ago, and still manages to better his lap time by about 5 seconds, I think he said. I'm not sure where he was racing, but thank you very much for the comment, Lynch, much appreciated. And if you are using some of the old setups, it would be interesting to see if they're still serving you well, so to speak.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
I know every time I come to setups that I've got from previous ones, 1.8, I generally do tweak them a little bit and save them once again with the abbreviations. Obviously we're in 1.8, 10.5 at the moment, so I do try and keep them relative to the game version. So another car coming out of the pits there. Obviously we are all racing these early pit stops, Code Gamer, that I overtook on lap 1, so managed to gain a few seconds on him since taking my pit stop. So the undercut working very well at the moment with other drivers that were very close in the field when I did go into the pits. So it's all about just being consistent. I know people go on about getting that fastest lap, and I did spend a lot of time initially trying to get fastest laps. It is something I do enjoy doing, but since we've lost the special events page, really, there hasn't been any special events for probably well over a year. I really would like to see that come back to the game. But yeah, I think being consistent is so much more important than being able to hammer home one fast lap. Obviously works well for qualifying, but I think as long as you can be consistent, it's going to win you more races than having overall one lap pace. But I do enjoy Spa, especially when the car's set up well. I think having a good front end on the car, lots of front end grip, maybe a tiny bit of oversteer is helpful, but I think needing to get the power down out of some of these corners, especially as you come out of Pouhon through the twisty section, having some good rear grip through the next series of corners can be really beneficial. Obviously down the long back straight here up through Eau Rouge, really don't want to be losing the rear end as you come through Eau Rouge, taking a nice tight line through turn 1. And again, I'm using traction control 8 and 9 on the exits. I used to use traction control 1 and 9, but every now and then I was getting caught out severely on not changing the traction control, as much as it was very much evident in the Barcelona race. TC8 or TC9 in the BMW was very intrusive on acceleration. The Ferrari doesn't seem so bad, and obviously we could always use TC1 as well, whereby we could add 9 and 9 maybe on the traction control. And obviously if you're running the Ferrari always remember to change that engine map if you're using the aggressive setup, which for some reason has it preset at 3 for the engine map. Obviously the lower the number, the more fuel we're going to be burning. So engine map 1 in most cars, apart from the Porsches, which I think we all know by now, running engine map 8 for their maximum. And I don't think there's many occasions where you would look to run anything less than maximum. I've still not come across a stage where we've got a safety car on track, and generally we've always got enough fuel in the car to finish the race, so it's not like Formula 1 where they actually never start the race with enough fuel to finish it. There's always some kind of fuel saving throughout the entire race. So hopefully you don't mind that we haven't got any camera footage of myself driving. This is literally just me talking over the race that we had the other night. Usually I do like to film the driving and give as much commentary during the race as I can do, but I do quite like watching back some of these races, seeing if there's anywhere that I can better my own driving. So looking at the lap times then of 220, kind of disappointing to be hitting 220s considering we've got such low track temperatures, and I don't think it being night time should have a massive effect on setting a fast lap at all. We've got good tyre pressures, good temperatures within the tyres. See, we've got 82 at the front, 81. I do like being able to see on the display delta tyre temperatures and whatnot. Maybe a little bit cooler than probably best. It's probably better running them in the 90s. So maybe the tyres are a little bit cool, especially the front end. But obviously at 220 there's somebody else out there setting a faster lap time. Would be nice to know that information as well, who's actually got the fastest lap. Obviously if you change the MFD you can see who the pink driver or purple driver is, but it doesn't actually tell you what the fastest lap is. That would be nice to know what the current fastest lap is. Just gives you a bit of an idea. I guess we're all waiting for UDP support as well, to be able to use our tablets once again and just be able to see more information. Maybe have crew chief as well running, so we've got a better spotter. As much as the radar is useful and there is a little bit of a spotter within the game, I really would like more information, I think, about other drivers, sort of lap times that other drivers are setting, where I'm slower than other drivers. I think that would be a really nice touch to add a little bit more information from the spotter side of things. If they're not going to build UDP support into the game, I think they could increase some aspects of the game to make it more immersive, I guess. So obviously you can see the front discs starting to cool down quite a bit at the end of the straight. Certainly keeping the front tyres very cool. Definitely might be worth closing those brake ducts a little bit more for the night race. Rear ones don't seem to be too bad. So as you can see, the predicted lap time just edging into the 219s. I'd certainly like to be closer to the 218s, so maybe a little bit more time needed to get this setup back to where it was, although it is very, very different jumping from the BMW into the mid-engined Ferrari. I'm sure it is mid-engine, it's probably rear-engined, isn't it? So coming from the front-engined BMW into the rear-engined Ferrari, the change of direction is very different. Although jumping back into the BMW after this race, it does feel so precise. The force feedback. I did end up coming back to Spa after this race and made a few adjustments to the force feedback on my wheel, just making it a little bit heavier. I noticed just down in the bottom right hand corner that I wasn't really getting any clipping through the wheel at all.
Well done, mate. Personal fastest lap.
I just thought I could add a little bit more weight to the Ferrari. We'll see how we get through our roos, if there's any clipping. Just allows you to feel a little bit more precision through the wheel. Oh yeah, serious bumping through there, but very minimal overall throughout the lap. Obviously losing a little bit of information if you do get clipping through the wheel, but you can see it's bouncing very much on no information from the wheel really. Obviously we start taking the corner, tiny blips through the force feedback. You're trying to get as much information through there without it being in the red. So definitely more information would be available, I think. So I just added, I think I went up to 80 on my gain from 70, and maybe 90 on the force feedback on my wheel, up to about 98. And then just added a tiny bit of caster. I think it's 14 on the caster at a minute. I think I probably went up to 15, but I think after initially adding so much force feedback, I did bring the caster back down. So as you can see, looking at the leaderboard down the bottom there's just a few drivers ahead of me that have still yet to pit. We've got Escudero, PRT Escudero just up ahead, 6 seconds up the road. I'm not sure whether we actually need to overtake him on circuit. So definitely getting into the lower 219.6s, looking at the delta. I was kind of hoping as I come across the line with this lap time that we'd be getting into the fastest lap times. So very much catching Escudero with a 2:19.6 and still not carrying that pink lap time. So someone's definitely pushing on much harder. You can see there SLR Davey got the fastest lap time. I do seem to think it's hard to work out. I'm guessing he's 6 seconds, he's more than 6 seconds behind Escudero. Very hard to work out where people are sometimes using the limited MFD information. So front two tyres a little bit too cool in my opinion. As soon as you get down to the 27s, low 27s, you're really not generating enough grip. We've got 79 degrees tyre temperature as well, so a little bit under temperature. Definitely just close out that front brake duct by another one, I think, to generate a little bit more heat in the tyre. And I think we're going to have to overtake Escudero here. Still yet to take his pit stop. So as much as he's in P5, he's definitely going to move down the order once he's taken his stop. Oh, he very kindly just tapped his brake there.
Car on the right.
Much appreciated. I think you can see me catching him. That is definitely the sign of a good driver, in my opinion. He knows he's got a pit stop still to take. We're certainly not racing each other. I think I was mid-race with somebody else the other day as well, and you could hear him having a conversation over the audio. That they're just not in the same race. A guy, I think he was in 7th place, catching the 3rd place driver, and just having that discussion if he would move over. He's obviously quicker, but they're not in the same race at all. It's just good to know sometimes that there are drivers out there that consider these things. It certainly gives more time for you as a driver just to focus on your own race. Brilliant sky as well. Not seen any different sort of conditions on the XCL websites as of yet, but nice to do an evening race. Hoping next Thursday night's event at Brands Hatch, I'd love to see some rain on the circuit, but maybe in the rookie class it's a step too far. But I know Jan was on about maybe in the different leagues as we move towards silver and gold, just bringing different elements into the races, the length of the races as well. That would be really interesting to see where things go with the website. Obviously racing in the rain is a whole different ball game. Probably a lot more to do with setup on the night as well. Just making some subtle adjustments. But it'd be good if people aren't aware of conditions for that evening. I suppose it does help people that know more about setups, where you could adjust the setup for wet conditions, raising the car, adjusting the tyre pressures and whatnot, balance of the car. There are a number of things that you can adjust when it comes to running in wet conditions. So 5 minutes left then.
Yellow flag, be careful.
A number of other drivers still yet to take the stops. See car number 28, Escudero, just coming into the pits then. Take his mandatory stop. You can see I'm just taking that tiny lift through our rouge. No point. I think the car will go through there flat out, but since 1.8 I'm very wary carrying full speed through our rouge. Just as you come up and over the top, it just seems very unstable.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
The car just round this right-hander just doesn't seem to be hooking up for me. Maybe I need to lower the preload a little bit to get the car to rotate a little bit more whilst coasting. I think it had a much more snap as you came off the throttle pedal. It come off the throttle pedal very aggressively, and the car just seemed to spin much better. Through Pouon again, it just seems a little bit out of shape if you're aggressive through there. A very ginger approach to applying the brake pedal. And then as you come off the brake pedal here, there's just that slight bit of rotation. You see lifting and applying the accelerator just to get the car to rotate. And again the rear end just a little bit loose. Coming through here as well, the front end of the car just doesn't seem as grippy. I don't seem to have the confidence to go full throttle as you come out the exit to that corner. carrying too much speed, you often get a track limits penalties, like the first track limit penalty I've already got.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
So 3 minutes left.
Yellow flag ahead, be careful.
So yeah, looking forward to Thursday night's race at Brands Hatch. A very tough circuit to nail. Certainly spend a bit of time doing the setup. Definitely going to have a little bash at tomorrow's hot lap as well at Laguna Seca. Not particularly one of my favourite circuits. I don't particularly feel like I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to get the car set up as well. Just thought I'll try and get a few points added to the rating system. Try and get into the higher tier as quick as I can, really. Would be really good to have some very close battles with the whole field really being more tight. But I guess that's as the website builds, that's going to be the main focus.
Yellow flag in sector 1. Right, man, leader is on the final lap. Give it all you can.
So leader is on the final lap, and as you can see, he's crossed the line in the pit lane, so very much aware I've got to get a move on. It's amazing just how far away I am from the pit stop, from the pit, and how far he's got to go around the pit. I'm looking at that pit, but the track map so much while I'm driving here, seeing if I'm going to be round in time to get past him. Not wanting to lift through there at all, really looking to nail the braking zone. A little bit too eager through there, just turn the corner. So just coming on board, thought I'd try this more in-car view really. You see him just coming out of the pit there, just looking over to the right hand side as he's rejoining the race circuit. So close behind as he comes out the pit, coming down the back straight, the car's just bouncing away. See the lights just flickering. So we know full well that he's got very little temperature in his tyres as we come through here. Back on the power then. I do like this view, the in-car view, but I really couldn't drive with it. There's just too much leaning. I don't particularly feel that I could be accurate driving it in this view, but I really do like it. Just at how the driver sort of looks to the apex of the corner. I might actually try giving this a whirl, but I really don't know whether it would be beneficial to lap times. Just moves around quite a lot. I do find myself, even though while I'm driving I move around in my seat a heck of a lot when I watch back the replays. I think what the brain sees, it kind of reproduces the sensations sometimes in the brain. It's a very strange experience driving in a simulator sometimes. I think having the static camera view, you can be just more accurate, I think. But I do like it looking towards the apex. So just coming up on Lynch then as we cross the line. I know he was saying he really didn't want to get overtaken on laps.
Excellent job. What a race. See you in the
So
pits.
obligatory
Bring it
flash
back.
of the light. Brilliant race. So Porsche driver finishing just 3 seconds behind. That's how close it was over that 30-minute period. Symie, SLR Symie. Tried to get the donuts going, but just doesn't seem to want to get spinning really. Maybe I need to practice my donut skills. So just doing the obligatory saving of the highlights and just looking over the leaderboard. My dog just joining me here. So fingers crossed we can take a look at the leaderboard. I do enjoy just looking over, especially fastest laps. Just have a chat with some of the guys as well while we're doing that. Very much just chatting with Lynch, I think. But looking over SLR Davies lap times if we can for the race. Very interested to see just how many laps he went in the red. Whether that's going up and over a Rouge, I'm not sure. I'm sure if I look back at my own as well. Definitely far fewer laps in the red. Just managing a 2:19.6. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If like most people, you're still not subscribed to the channel, please do hit that bell notification as well. And until next time, hopefully I'll see you on Thursday evening at Brands Hatch. Until next time, ciao for now.